Kate Winslet's new HBO series The Regime received critical acclaim before its release, but since its premiere on March 3, its once promising Rotten Tomatoes score has quickly plummeted. Created by Will Tracy, the co-writer of The Menu, The Regime chronicles a year inside the palace of the collapsing authoritarian regime of a fictional Central European nation. Winslet stars as Chancellor Elena Vernam, a paranoid autocrat who begins to rely on the advice of a recently disgraced soldier played by Matthias Schoenaerts. The limited series will run for 6 episodes, concluding its run on April 7. The Regime seemed to have everything going for it: a rich satirical premise, lavish production design, and the great Stephen Frears and Jessica Hobbs each directing half of its episodes. Winslet is backed up by such A-list supporting players as Hugh Grant and Andrea Riseborough in the Regime's impressively star-studded cast. But in spite of all these exciting attributes, The Regime has been met with enough negative reviews to drown out the early praise it received before its release. So, what went wrong? Why are the reviews for The Regime so mixed? The Regime's reviews went from critically acclaimed to mixed very quickly. Before its release, The Regime's Rotten Tomatoes score sat nice and high at 89%. This doesn't indicate universal praise, but it's pretty close. However, post-release, that score has dropped to a dismal 57%, crossing the dreaded threshold from fresh to rotten. First reactions are often unreliable, because the people providing those reactions have been given early access to a high-profile project and don't want to jeopardize their chances of getting early access to future films and TV shows, so they tend to say only positive things to appease the studio. Once a movie or TV show has come out and becomes accessible to anyone who wants to write a review, critics are free to share their true opinions. The pre-release reviews focused mostly on Winslet's powerhouse performance as Chancellor Vernam. As usual, Winslet is a magnetic screen presence with a deep understanding of the nuances of her character. But the post-release reviews suggest that Winslet's typically strong acting isn't enough to salvage a series whose writing falls far short of its satirical ambitions. Why The Regime's Rotten Tomatoes score dropped by over 40% after release. Kate Winslet smirking in The Regime. After its release, The Regime's Rotten Tomatoes score dropped by more than 40%, taking it from a comfortable, fresh rating to an unenviable, rotten rating. This is because the first half of the reviews, which were added to Rotten Tomatoes before the show's release, were mostly positive. Then, the next batch of reviews, added after the series premiered on HBO, were mostly negative. These negative reviews counterbalanced the existing positive reviews and dragged the overall score down to the middle of the scale. A lot of the early positive reviews came with a caveat. It's not as funny as a political satire should be, but the central relationship is consistently engaging. The writing is cartoonish, but Winslet's performance salvages it. Even the most laudatory reviews made negative points about the series. The second wave of reviews didn't give The Regime the benefit of the doubt like the first wave and just went full-tilt negative, lambasting its featherlight satire, thinly drawn characters, and failure to say anything original about the threat of autocracy. The Regime's 57% Rotten Tomatoes score breaks a huge Kate Winslet trend. Elena looks disturbed by her father's body in The Regime Episode 1. The mixed reviews met by The Regime have sadly broken an impressive streak that Winslet had with her other HBO projects. Winslet's past 2 HBO miniseries, Mildred Pierce and Mayor of Easttown, were both critically acclaimed and rank pretty high in the overall critical scores of HBO's original programming. Mildred Pierce holds an 81% score on Rotten Tomatoes, while Mayor of Easttown has a near-perfect rating of 95%. Both of these scores are well above the fresh threshold, but that success streak has been broken by The Regime's disappointing 57% score.